Hello and welcome to Kopites Calling with Dave and Nik. We're back after a little bit of time off, and just wanted to jump back into the season is well underway for Liverpool. They had their first game last week against Ipswich Town and came out of that with a 2-0 win at Ipswich. Um, what were your thoughts on that game, Nik? What did you think of how did you think the team did?
I would say a little rusty, obviously. I mean, playing away on the first game of the season at the 12:30 kickoff over there. A lot of adversity. Newly promoted side. So first half was a little iffy. But second half started. I feel like we definitely grew into the game and got the tough result on the road because those newly promoted teams obviously want to make a statement early that they're here for the long haul. They're here to stay up. So first official Premier League game under slot was 3 points, and that's all we can really hope for.
It's interesting, Nik, because Ipswich Town were, I mean, super excited. They had a nice turnout for the game. They had Ed Sheeran. He was all in, man. They were, the Tractor Boys, and he was all fired up for the Liverpool game. And first half, Nik, I'm just like you. I was not impressed. I was like, what is, but this has happened to us before. I recall not too many years ago, first game against Norwich when they were newly promoted, and we struggled in that game too. And I was like, is this going to be that kind of thing for us? And then second half, it just clicked into gear, and the team really stepped up second half, and I thought played the way I expected them to play.
Agreed. I mean, I think that it's always the Premier League's the Premier League, right? So I mean, Ipswich, to your point, they're gonna have they're kind of they have a smaller stadium, similar to like a Luton Town of last year, where Ipswich is going to want to make that place a fortress. They're going to want to make that place uncomfortable for anybody going there, and they did. I mean, they made it extremely uncomfortable for Liverpool in the first half. But then, as you would expect, the quality shows, at the end of the day, and the quality showed from Liverpool in the second half. I mean, two very good finishes, two very good moves for the goals. So the quality showed, and I think that it was the outcome everyone expected, but it took us a couple seconds to get things really going. And it's a little bit of a rust thing as well, right? I mean, some guys came late back from their holidays and whatnot, so it was always going to be that weird sort of kickoff against a newly promoted team.
A couple interesting things, and one of them is it seems like Slot at this point in time is all in on Gravenberg, and you know we'll talk about him in a few minutes, um, and the situation with Kwanzaa, he was preferred over Konate in this first match, and he kind of received the hook at halftime. And after the game, Slot really made no bones about it and basically said that um, Kwanzaa lost too many duels and he was replaced by Konate for that reason. That's not a Klopp move. Klopp does not do that. And I think that Slot is basically saying this is my team now.
Um, I am 100% behind Slot. I mean, how it's the one thing I can think of in that sort of instance is that's refreshing, right? I mean, I don't remember the last time Klopp, and again, I don't want we are not trying to compare, but of course we're going to compare, right? I mean what Klopp did to what Slot did, but it's refreshing to see that there's a little bit of a ruthlessness about Slot. If you're
Yes,
not if you're
yes.
not doing what needs to be done, then there's not much that he can really do, and he'll hook you. You know what I mean? He's not going to wait till the 70th minute, 60th minute. If you're not doing what is tactically asked of you in the position that you're being put out in, he'll do what he has to do as a coach, as a manager. I mean, he has every right to make that decision. I think that towards the end of last season, obviously Kwanzaa was preferred. That was Klopp's, mentality going into games, was that Kwanzaa was preferred, over Konate. But, Slot's a kind of guy that, we've seen, and we even saw it today as we get in today's game. But, thinking about Ipswich, he will do what needs to be done. If he's seen something, he's not going to be like, let's wait till the 70th minute. Maybe he'll grow into it. No, he'll make a change when he wants to make a change. And the one word I think of is refreshing. That is refreshing to see. I mean, he is not about the these are my boys, these are my guys. I got to give them time. He's like, I want to win games, and I want the team to play my style.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a good way for us to just kind of move in. I mean, the first game, 3 points on the road, the start we wanted. I was expecting a couple, a few more goals, but that, I'll take a clean sheet and I'll take 2-0. And then coming into today's game at Anfield, first slot home game at Anfield in the regular season. Um, and Brentford was coming into this game, Nick. They had a 2-1 win against Crystal Palace the first week, and they, just a couple little things on Brentford. They finished last season in 16th place in the Premier League. Um, you know, they with the win the first week, the Bees seemed to be buzzing a little bit, and they were kind of coming in this game, kind of thinking that we knew for a fact that this was going to be a game that goals are going to be scored in because that's what happens when these two teams get together. As a matter of fact, Nick, this is kind of a neat little thing. In the 6 Premier League matches between the two teams, 22 goals have been scored. The Reds have had 15, and the Bees have had 7. So the goals were going to be scored. Matter of fact, 8 of the last 9 meetings, at least one of the teams scored 3 goals. So Brentford had to be coming in feeling a little good, and Liverpool was feeling a little good. Um, so we have won, the last 3 matches against Brentford, and coming into the game, Brentford hadn't kept a clean sheet in 7 matches.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
you know,
Brentford's a team that I'm sure you'll agree with, Dave. They're always that like outlier in the Prem. You know what I mean? Where it's like on their day, they're capable of playing very good football. They have 2 very good attacking players in Bomo Brian and Burmo and Jan Wisa, who have created a very good chemistry between themselves over the years in the Prem. They're tricky. They're a tricky side. They're never really going to flirt with European soccer. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how they do this season, but they're also not really going to ever go down. They're kind of like a Crystal Palace in that sort of capacity, but they have 2 very tricky attackers in Burmo and Wisa, and coming into Anfield, you'd expect Liverpool to get the job done, right? But Brentford's a tricky side.
well, it was never going to be easy. Um, Coming into the lineup, what did we start off with, Nick?
Well, as we kind of alluded to from the Ipswich game, the one change was Quansick coming out of the lineup and Kanate coming in. So you had the back four of Trent, Kanate, Virgil, and Robbo. The midfield was, Gravenberg at that deep line defensive mid role, Sobo and McAllister ahead of him, and then the front 3 was unchanged with Jota, Mo, and Diaz.
What are your thoughts on Gravenberch in that position?
He's winning me over. I'm going to be honest. I think he is. We've had our fair say of Gravenberg last season on this show, and I think that under maybe a new manager is what he needed, right? Because last year he obviously struggled with injuries, and then whenever he came back under Klopp, again we're going to keep comparing it to Klopp, which we shouldn't be doing, but of course that's what us as fans are going to do. Klopp didn't really give him the light of day, especially in a deep lying position. He really was on to, Endo had kind of owned that position right at the deep lying level. Um, but I have to be honest, right? The second half against Ipswich and then today, as we get into the game, I think Gravenberg is kind of doing a fairly good job. I think he is doing what needs to be done. He's winning balls. He's progressing the moves forward. I don't know what you think, Dave, but I think that if he keeps moving in this trajectory, it's very good for him. I mean, we've found a spot for him in this team. Does that mean I don't think we should go out and buy a defensive mid? No, I still think we need a defensive mid from the market. Again, who knows what
Well,
transfers are going to get done? Who knows how many days are left? But I think defensive mid is a weird position for us right now. But if Gravenberg continues this form, he's doing a very good job. He's starting to win me over in this position. I have to admit it. And I know it's only 2 games. Maybe I'm getting carried away, but he's impressing me. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, we might have found, I mean, Liverpool remains the only team in the Premier League to have not made a signing in this transfer window. So we're the only team, and we might have dodged a little bit of a bullet by finding our own defensive, deep defensive mid in our own team, and that might be Gravenberg. It's for me right now. Um, I think he's had three, one good half in the Ipswich game and two good halves today. Um, does that line him up for the rest of the season?
Hard to
I'm
tell.
not totally sold yet.
Yeah,
But Endo took a while last year for me.
exactly.
Endo's an interesting thing for me right now because in the preseason, Nick, Endo played the first preseason game on the tour in the U.S. and really had a pretty bad game, and he hasn't been really kind of thought of since.
Well, you get again, as you spoke upon the ruthlessness of slot, it's fairly obvious that Endo to slot is a bit part player, which you know unfair to Endo maybe, but at his age, it's not very unfair, right? A new manager comes in, it happens all the time, right? In professional sports, you're favored under one, you may not be favored on the next, and I think Slot sees Endo right now as a player that will come on in garbage time, solidify a lead if need be, kind of just, hanker in, keep the defensive shape, and he'll play in the cup games. It seems as though that's what Klopp's thinking. Or, sorry, not Klopp. Jeez. How many times am I going to do that this season where I mistake him? That's just what Slot's thinking, in my opinion, where he's had his assessment of him throughout the preseason and in the United States tour, and, it's fairly obvious that I'm not saying he doesn't rate him, but he doesn't rate him to make an impact on what he wants to do with this Liverpool team.
Well, it's clear he has an idea of what he's doing. First
Yeah,
things first, Nick. What I've seen from the preseason tour here and the first two games, right off the bat, Slot likes to play with a wider. He plays a lot wider than Klopp did.
absolutely.
And from what I see, you could speak more to this because you have actually, you've been on the pitch, you know what you're doing on the pitch. What I see is by forcing the game wider, you're opening a lot of channels, and then you're seeing some of these more intricate passing because I think the field is. If you're a defender and a player's out wide, you got to go out there. You can't sit in there and just kind of wait. And Klopp played more he kind of funneled people in,
Exactly.
and then everybody was kind of packed. And
Yep.
so by slot, the first thing you notice is he's playing on a wider scope.
You hit the nail on the head. I think whenever you keep your width on a pitch, it frees up channels for your midfielders, right? So I think this system, right, and we'll get into him when we get into the game, but I think this system suits Soboslai, right? Sobo is a guy that, he really wants to make an impact on the attacking end, but he also is very efficient making those runs through the midfield into those spaces, right? Because if you keep Mo out wide, Diaz out wide, there's more channels to run throughout the center of the pitch. And I think that is something that has never really been what Liverpool did. It was more so, Firmino or whomever under Klopp bringing defenders in the midfield. He would drop defenders in, bring them in, and then we would have Mo or Diaz or Mane or whoever was on Gagpo, whoever's on the other side. Then they're making diagonal runs into the box, so they're not staying wide. They're coming more centrally, right? How many goals have we seen, previous seasons of Mo scoring from the center of the box as opposed to off the left wing? So with again Mo and Diaz keeping their width, it leaves an opportunity for that little. I guess it's basically an underlapping run that is Sobo's making because he's not overlapping Mo, but he's underlapping him so that Mo can play him in or Diaz can play in McAllister, whomever. And it's getting more numbers in the box, in my opinion. We're getting more numbers in dangerous areas.
And I think the game is more, this style is more suited to Sobo. I think it really is.
Absolutely.
Last year, you were seeing a little bit of a fall off with Sobo's game to the point where he really wasn't being used a lot toward the end of the season. And now there's kind of been I think this style fits him. I think the first two games with Sobo in there, um, it just kind of seems like he's comfortable.
Exactly. Again,
But
it's got to be refreshing for all of the players, but I think Sobo is very much, you know, and we'll get into the game, right? I mean, I know we're still, talking about the lineup, but there's instances where I think Sobo makes a greater impact defensively as well. I mean, oh my goodness, he is a workhorse on and off the ball. When he has the ball, he wants to progress forward as quickly as possible, but off the ball, I mean, he'll be the first defender to run you down and win the ball back, which is what I really rate him for. And me and you and I talked about this on last season of Kopites Calling, where his defensive work goes very much under the radar.
absolutely. But the interesting thing that I've seen is with Sobo's reemergence, because the beginning of last season he was really playing at a pretty high level. His reemergence, you've seen kind of a player kind of a little bit disappear, and that's Alexis McAllister. I didn't even know he was. I kind of forgot he was on the pitch today.
Yeah, it's funny. You're exactly right. I think what McAllister is still doing well is you're not talking about him, but whenever you talk about him, he's just made a good play. You know what I mean? I think that
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where it's like, oh, but where's McAllister been? And then he makes a terrible challenge or he gives the ball up. Whenever you realize McAllister's on the pitch, it's because he's making a great pass or he's a nice tackle or winning the ball back, springing someone on, whatever the case may be. You're not, and I think that he's going under the radar, but he's still doing what needs to be done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
even today, the few times that I kind of realized he was out there, his decision making was good. He was doing the right thing, and I'm like, going, okay, kind of forgot he was there, but this is a great play. He's making a great play. This
exactly.
is okay, and I'll take that. That'll work for me.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah, but as the game goes, I mean, the game starts and you're seeing, kind of what we do, which is, immediately we're in possession. We're kind of taking control of the possession. And, we kind of in the 13th minute, um, Brentford had a corner kick and Nick walked me through this. Konate was immense on this and it starts with him and walk me through this goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive whenever a center back has such a colossus header that it can then spring a counterattack. But not only that, I mean, Kanate did his job right as a center. I mean, you'd expect that out of your center backs, right? But more impressively is Mo's challenge to keep the play alive still, right? I mean, I think you can agree that Mo still had a part to play. And it very much sprung us into what was probably one of the most textbook counterattacks I've ever seen, right? I mean, I can't remember the last time that Liverpool had a counterattack that was so well thought out, if that makes sense. I mean, Jota's taking on space when he wins the ball. He's driving and, he's waiting for Diaz to make the run. Diaz makes the perfect time run. Jota plays the perfect time ball, wait on the ball. And the finish was just exquisite. I mean, it was a textbook counterattack. I don't really know how else to say it, but that's how you counter against a team from back to front in what was 20 seconds, maybe.
I mean, the speed with how this thing turned around. And then the ball, I mean, to see Jota wait for Diaz to get on at the right angle and just
Mm-hmm.
put that ball. I mean, it was it was so well executed and just clinical. I
Very
mean,
clinical. I mean, that's a
when
counterattack that you can show in any coach all over the world can show in their training sessions or in their film sessions of like this is what we want. That whenever we say counter, this is what we need, right? Counter quickly, and that's exactly what
yes,
Liverpool did.
yes, yes. So, um, I mean, we're up 1-0 off just and Anfield is buzzing.
And Diaz
And
and Diaz needed that goal. I mean, I think Diaz
that's
was extremely wasteful against Ipswich, if I have to be honest. Not to go back to
yes,
the
he
Ipswich
was.
game, but he was
Yes, he
extremely
was.
wasteful. And Diaz is a funny case where he should be scoring more goals. I mean, I think you and I can both agree on that. And you know, with Gagpo, on the bench, having played the good Euros that he had, he's waiting for his moment. And Diaz needs to make sure that he is taking these opportunities because, how many times last year where we're like, Diaz played great, but he should have scored. You know what I mean? I think that Diaz needs these games where he needs to become a winger that only needs one or two chances to score, right? I mean, wingers are going to get chances all the time, but this was an opportunity on this counterattack that if Diaz had not hit the target, then I would have been like, well, that's just typical Diaz, right? I hate to admit it, but that's kind of how he's been, right? His status quo is he's dangerous, he's dangerous, he's dangerous, but there's no end product. But I mean, this finish off his left foot into the upper 90 was, to your point, it was very clinical.
You know, I mean, but we talk about Gakpo. Gakpo had a great Euro, but I think that Diaz had an equally good Copa.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
Diaz was pretty good in the Copa. So, you know, it's interesting when you have a person like Gakpo who kind of turned things around. He can't get on the field just yet
Yeah,
because Diaz to me Diaz is I think he works hard on both sides of the ball and I think he's everywhere.
yeah, yeah. I would agree. I definitely agree. So he needed that goal, though. To my point, I mean, I think that
Absolutely,
you know
absolutely.
he
Uh,
definitely
and
definitely
then
needed that.
and as the game progressed, we see Diaz involved again, and he in the 18th he gets the ball to Robbo, and their keeper makes a save on the near post, and Robbo again doing what Robbo does. He's just marauding up and down.
He's just it's he is his energy is always top notch. You can't really say much more about the guy. I don't know if he was fairly off at Ipswich as well to the second half.
I
The
think
whole
he was.
team was, but
Yes.
this was a very Robo-esque game, I would say.
Well, it's interesting, Nick. I'm glad you said that because had we had the opportunity to do a show last week, I would have been really hard pressed to kind of figure out who would have been my man of the match in the first half because I don't think anybody had a game in the first half. I thought
Right.
the whole team was equally bad in the first
Exactly.
half.
Exactly.
Um, Probably man of the match for the game, probably either Mo or Sobo for me.
Yeah, probably
Um,
Mo. Probably Mo for me. Just the
yeah,
assist and the goal kind of speaks for itself.
yeah. But anyway, so then Liverpool was I really thought that we were looking good on really kind of both sides, and Konate was just stepping up, and I mean it was just we were putting all kinds of pressure on them, and um, we Trent had a free kick in the 28th minute, and he didn't miss it by much.
No.
It's Trent doing Trent things, and he didn't miss it by much. But then Brentford comes back, Nick, and in the 31st minute, they had a free kick that was actually pretty close as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was a game that how many times, again, we're going to compare and whatever, but, Liverpool scoring first was not something that happened regularly last season. And from there, it was always about, we were always sort of chasing a game, right? With us scoring first here, we had the ability to kind of nurture and nurse the game. But, Brentford, they had a good shape to them, right? I mean, I thought that Brentford's game plan was executed very properly, and they knew their moments where they were going to be able to cause us some trouble being in set pieces. Um, but again, it was very much a game where after the first goal that Liverpool scored, it was like it was refreshing, right, as a fan, because how many times last season we went down 1-0 instead of up 1-0.
Yeah,
But it was also like, okay, so this has happened now. So what is Liverpool supposed to do for the other 80 minutes? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it was, to your point. I mean, it was always going to be like, well, how do we react to scoring first, considering we didn't really do that much last year?
Yeah, we didn't do it much at all last year, and we were always kind of playing from behind, and it was nice to see us score first, as is the case with Liverpool. You know, was one goal going to be enough? And
Right.
that's what we were. That was, was that going to work? Because if you're a fan of Liverpool, we have had this kind of issue with not putting teams away.
Exactly.
And so, going up one goal was great. Was it enough? And that's where, you start going, I don't know. But the game progresses and, I'm just watching Konate just, I think what you saw with Konate is a guy who's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Definitely.
And I think, he wasn't used by France in the Euros. And he, at least at the start of the season, was not preferred. Kwanzaa was the guy. And then he came in, and I think that he is basically saying, this is how I can play. Now, the problem with Konate, and we all know it, Nick, is
Injuries.
how many games is he going to be healthy?
Yep. Yep.
When's he going to pick up that? I mean, very likely he could pick up a knock in training this week, and we're not going to have him from Man U. So I mean, he's just that kind of player where when he's able to play, he has games like this where he can be just overpowering and be a dominant defensive force, or you know he can be on the bench because he's hurt.
Right. No, I mean, I would say this was very much a game where, not to say Van Dijk didn't do his job, but we were talking more about about Ibu, about Konate than we were Virgil, right? Because Konate was involved more on the defensive end than Virgil was. That's not to say. I mean, Virgil is Virgil. He had a Virgil-like game, right? But Konate was very much to your point, saying, "I'm the guy, and I'm going to be the guy
Hmm.
for me. If I'm healthy this week, I'm going to be the guy for that lines up at Old Trafford next weekend."
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you brought that up, Nick. The interesting part of this situation is you didn't say much, you didn't see much from Virgil. We didn't have to have Virgil intervening. Virgil played a solid, strong game, but we didn't have to have Virgil do Virgil-like things because we were controlling it.
Yep. Yeah.
We were
Exactly.
in control. Matter of fact, Nick, we didn't see Allison make his first save until the 43rd minute.
I didn't even. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I'm glad that you bring the stats because I never would. That's crazy. Wow, that's impressive from a
Yeah.
defensive standpoint. Again, right? It's so refreshing, right? And I hope the listeners don't think when I'm saying refreshing, it means that I'm going against what Klopp was for Liverpool, but
No.
refreshing in the stance of that every game last season was high energy, high octane, end to end, craziness where we were on the edge of our seats all the time, you know, instead of us having the ability to nurture a game. And that is what we did today, right? I mean, we'll get into the second half, but I mean, not allowing a shot on target for Allison to save until the 43rd minute. I can't remember the last time that happened for us.
Right. 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 So we go into the half at 1-0. Um, Liverpool had 56% of the possession. They had 44. Total shots at this point was 5-5, but on goal was two for us and two for them. We had one save. They had one save. We had four corners. They had two corners. Um, who was your man of the first half?
Whew, man, the first half, I would say for me, um, it's just because he needed the goal, and I kind of just I'm gonna go against. I'm gonna say it was. I'm gonna say Trent. I'm gonna say Trent because what Trent does is so it, his passing ability, his even defensively he was solid. He's one of the best passers to watch in world football, and I could have went Diaz because the goal and he needed it, but Trent to me today was different class, where both ends of the ball, which I mean, whatever, like people can talk about his defending all the time, but his passing ability is just so unique, and the fact that every pass he makes has a purpose. The weight on it is perfect. So Trent for me.
I'm going to stick with Konate. I mean, I just thought for me, I thought Konate he was on, he was ready to go, and he was huge.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Huge. He was huge.
Colossus.
A shout out though could have easily been. I mean, I thought Jota looked really, really, really good, and I thought that Diaz looked really good, and I thought Sobo looked really good. So
Yeah.
we had a number of players that, but for me, Konate just kind of stood out.
And exactly to that point, I mean, Trent stood out to me, right? Because his passing ability is hard not to stand out to anybody. You know what I mean? So it's like I agree with you. It could have been a number of players in the first half, but there's a
Yeah,
couple of passes where I'm like, it's just otherworldly what Trent is able to do when he passes the ball.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, I forgot to mention that that Gravenberg did pick up a yellow in the 37th minute. Um, he, it was kind of a weird yellow. He kind of slipped into the guy. I mean, was it a yellow? Yes, it was a yellow, but it was not.
I
It
mean,
just kind of
we're
happened.
talking about refing in the Premier League, right? I mean, whatever, right? It's going to be a
Yeah,
joke this season, like it's a joke last season. Refing in the Premier League is a joke. It's that simple.
but it was interesting to just kind of put in the back of your head that
Yeah.
he was on a yellow going into second half. So
Yep.
I wanted to make that kind of out there. But we get into last week against Ipswich, the sub that was made at halftime, which you never saw before, is saw Conte come in for Kwanzaa. This second half there were no subs, and saw just Nicholas in the 47th minute, an outrageous bicycle kick of Jota.
It would have been the assist of the season.
And oh my God, it was a bicycle kick that it was. I mean, Robbo was right there, and I mean, it was a great save by their keeper. But that would have been probably, I don't know if I've ever seen that. That would have been really cool.
Again, it would have been the assist of the season. I mean, it was Jota is he's that type of guy in the box. He'll do anything to get an opportunity, and this was just as weird as it looked. But if it came off, it would have been amazing. So it didn't. To your point, it was a good defensive play, but it would have been a crazy goal. That's for sure.
It would have been, and Jota to me is probably we've talked about Jota quite a bit on Kopites Calling. Another player I'd like to see stay healthy longer, um, and I think that Portugal did us a favor by preferring Ronaldo over him in the Euros, which I'll never understand. But to Liverpool's benefit, he seems really hungry as well this year, and he is a guy to me, Nick, that, and we've talked about it. He doesn't care if he scores with his head, his shoulder, his thigh, his knee, his stomach, his chest, his toe, his shin, his ankle. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I think this is a season for Jota where if we can nurture his minutes, if we can keep him healthy, I think he could be our guy. You know what I mean? And I think that he's always been on that precipice of being this guy for Liverpool, but under new management, you know, given the starts that he's now been given, he'll definitely start on Sunday, against United as well. You would expect. He just has this new feel about him in these games where he knows he is the main man up top, right? And you can see that with the confidence he's been playing with, especially on the assist to Diaz, the goal against Ipswich. He, we just have to keep him healthy. I mean, how many times it's like ridiculous how many times he gets injured with these little knocks here and there. If we can just find a way to keep him healthy, I very much think he's a 20 plus goal a season player.
Oh, and I think he is at this point in time, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but he's preferred over Darwin, and rightfully so. I
I mean,
mean,
that's not even. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not even a decision to that. That's if I was.
no,
I mean, it's a joke to even think that Nunes has a chance in the lineup, considering how Jota's been playing. Because
right,
we'll talk about Darwin when he gets on the field, but we don't want to get too out of the rhythm of
right,
the second half. But it shouldn't even be a discussion to be had. Jota right now is by far and away the easy choice.
absolutely. And, I mean, you're seeing Liverpool. I mean, at this point, Nick, God, the pressure that we were putting on Brentford was just it was awesome. But then we were even able to do in the 49th minute. It was great defending from us, but it was starting there were a little bit of things kind of happening with me where I was going, God, we've seen this play out before, haven't we? We've seen the fact that we can't put a team away. We can get in there and we can do everything right, but put the ball in the back of the net. And that's kind of been the problem with Liverpool. And it just was playing out right in front of us again today, where what more could we do but put the ball in the net? Their keeper was keeping them in the game.
It was funny. To your point, I mean, their defensive shape was super impressive. I mean, Nathan Collins, I believe, a player from he had a great
Hmm.
game.
Yes.
He was very good. But it's funny because while all this was happening, I mean, we were still 1-0 up, right? So yeah, we were at risk of potentially letting in a goal off a counter, but Brentford were playing as if we were already tied. And by that, they weren't, Liverpool kept winning the ball back, right? I mean, Brentford
Hmm.
never really seemed like they cared about it. Almost seemed like Brentford had a way of thinking, let's not make this 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Let's make this 1-0 and we'll go back home, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's keep it 1-0. They never really, I mean, we'll get into the rest of the second half, but the most impressive thing I saw today from Liverpool was how quickly we were winning the ball back. It was
Absolutely.
honestly insane. And some of the commentators as well were saying it was relentless. I mean, you think about the 5 second rule, right? Whenever you're a player, is like when you lose the ball, the team has 5 seconds to win the ball back, right? I mean, I learned that as a player. It's like it's the thing you do in practice, where it's like you lose the ball, your opposing team 5 seconds to win the ball back. It was instantaneous. We were winning the ball back. It was
Yeah.
incredible how quickly we were winning the ball back off Brentford. That they were probably exhausted. They were like, all right, well,
Absolutely.
all we can really do is defend, I guess.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, we needed Allison one more time. He made his second save of the game in the 54th minute. And then, from then on, it just kind of seemed like, I mean, I thought that, the 60th minute, Nick, there was some passing from Liverpool. Didn't result in a
Would
goal,
have been the goal of the
but
season.
my God, what was that? Just spot on, intricate,
1-2s all over
beautiful.
the. I mean,
Foot.
that's how you unlock. That is total football. Is what that was. If that would have been a goal.
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of those crazy things you do on, like, I don't know, some kind of a video game or something where you have all these, people just doing all this crazy stuff. But this was happening in front of us, and we're going, these are real people doing this.
Yeah, it was incredible. The pace at which we were moving that ball. Um, it was very good defending at the end. I mean, that one Brentford player tracked Mo's run in the back post, which had Mo not been tracked, I'm sure we would have scored off that, and it would have been
Yeah.
incredible. But I mean, the 1-2s, the intricate play across the box. That was again. I mean, I'm gonna keep using this word refreshing, but it was something that I hadn't seen from Liverpool in at least not last season. Again, I hope. I'm gonna disclaimer every single time I say that. I love Klopp, but that is just what I'm saying now because
Yeah.
it's a new coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it before, Nick. Sometimes you just need a new coach is going to help. It's
Yep.
not. It's not. It's not. Jurgen Klopp is already. They should build a
He's in the
statue to the
lore.
guy.
Yeah.
He's right up there with Shankly Paisley. He's in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the team isn't benefiting from having a new coach, and that's what we
Exactly.
need to kind of talk about here. But
Right.
um, Konate had a header that was saved. Um, Keeper made a save on Diaz, and again, Nick, I'm getting this little feeling going. My God, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with a 1-0 scoreline right now whenever we are kind of pretty much just peppering the goalkeeper
Yeah.
and we're
Exactly.
not putting the ball in. An interesting thing though, Nick, I think we have to point this out. In the 65th minute, Brentford made a sub and it was Fabio Carvalho, Liverpool player until August 12th. Um, for him, um, did I hate to see him kind of go? I hated to see him kind of go. He wasn't going to get on the pitch with us. He had a nice little preseason with us, but I think for him, you know, a chance to play and really help a Brentford team is much more needed for his career.
Agreed. I didn't know what we were going to do with him, considering, to your point, the positive preseason he had. I didn't know if that was going to get him back in the mix, but then you think about the mix, and it's like, well, where does he play? I don't think he really knew. I don't think we really knew where he played or where his best position was when he was with us. I let's be honest, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that we were able to get $35 million from him is,
Absolutely.
I mean, no offense to the kid, right? I mean, he's a young player, but $35 million for what, one season in the Prem, and then we loaned him the whole city in the championship. I mean, I know he went on loan at RB Leipzig as well, but he really only had one season in the Prem, and we were able to get 35 million from him. That's just good business on our end. I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, and same goes for Seth Vandenberg. I mean, Seth Vandenberg that we sold to Brentford,
Yeah,
he again, he only had loans in the Bundesliga and the Championship. Seth Vandenberg didn't play a single minute in the Prem, and we sold
right,
him to Brentford for $25 million. I mean, that's just
right.
good business. So
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I think Carvalho knew he needed to make a switch. He made the switch, and I think he'll fit in right at Brentford because, like I said, Brentford is that weird, tricky team where
Yeah,
he'll have a spot in that 11. In a couple weeks, I'm sure he'll solidify a spot in that 11, and he'll score some goals here and there. He'll be an impact player for them, absolutely.
absolutely. And then, you know, a lot of people were kind of going, well, Mo's off today? What's happening with Mo? What's happening? Mo, oh my gosh, Mo. And then we saw what that guy can do in the 71st minute. And talk to me about this, Nick. What did you see?
I mean, it was just, I would say the way the pass from Diaz is
Again,
is is again Diaz again strong performance, right? The way the pass from Diaz, but the clinical finish from Mo, and I don't think that people realize how difficult that finish is, right? I mean, he is switching his body to place it into the far post, kind of readjusting because the ball was fizzed into him, right? So the first touch had to really set him up for success. First touch was kind of a little bit, it set him up for success in a way, but wasn't perfect. He readjusted his body, placed it into the far post. I mean, look, I'm not going to deny what people say about Mo, right? I mean, he cannot beat his man worth a darn anymore, like he used to be able to for Liverpool. But do you think we really care? Because he's one of the most clinical finishers in the world. If you can't beat his man, what Mo has done to his game is that he knows that he can't beat a man one on one. He's just not that player anymore. But he's been able to set players up throughout his career. He's very good at passing the ball. And guess what? When you need him to come up and he's in a situation 1v1, you'd still put your house on him to score. That's exactly what happened. He is a timeless player for Liverpool. I mean, he is not the player he was, but I don't care because he's going to score 20 goals again this season, and you're crazy to think otherwise.
here's something to think about, Nick, and just kind of listen to me with this. Mo Salah, 128 games at Anfield, 128 goal involvements.
It's insane. His numbers are insane.
Is that insane? When I saw that, I'm like, going, no, that can't. No. And I'm like, going, because it's Mo Salah.
Yeah,
I mean, if I don't, you're 100% correct as far as I'm concerned. I don't care if he beats a person in a foot race.
yeah. I don't care.
I mean, this is not. I mean, we had the Olympics a few weeks ago. I don't care. I saw all the racing I need to see back then. I want to see somebody score a goal. That's what
Right.
I want. I want
Yep.
goals. So Liverpool then makes subs. We had Gakpo come in for Diaz. We had Darwin come in for Jota, and we had Bradley come in for Trent. Um, you know, I don't know if Trent was super happy.
Not
That's
at all.
okay. That's okay.
He's a
You
competitor.
know,
I mean, people are reading way too much into it. He's a competitor. How
absolutely.
many how many times have we seen Mo come off the pitch with Klopp and get pissed off, or Mane get pissed off,
Absolutely.
Messi get pissed off, and he gets subbed? You think about the best players in the world, right? No one wants to get subbed. The fact
Do
that
you think?
fans are like, oh, he hasn't sorted out his contract situation. This is just not good for him. Blah blah blah. Yeah, obviously he acted like a little brat. No one's going to deny that, and he needs to be
Yeah,
more mature because he is vice captain for Liverpool. But he is a competitor. So I mean, he will
absolutely.
be in that 11 come Sunday against Man United, against our arch rival. and he'll be the same trend he's always going to be. I think that it was, again, do I think he should have done that?
Strong
Absolutely
subs.
not. Yeah, not yeah, exactly.
Strong subs. I like the subs. I like when they came. They came in the 72nd minute. I like the sub. We're up 2-0. Um, I don't expect anybody to be subbed off the field and have the person who's being subbed off skip and jump and be all happy that I'm coming off.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I mean that these guys are professional athletes. I don't exactly, Nick, name one who's going to be sitting there going, "Yeah, sub me out, coach." That's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen. But what we saw was a continuation of just the dominance in possession that Liverpool had. Um, an interesting play from Gakpo where uh, he took a shot, it went off the head of Brentford, and then
Hit the post.
hit the
Yeah.
post.
Yeah.
Going okay. Um, and then in the 83rd minute, you saw Elliot to Mo, and something almost clicked there. Um, Darwin. The
Good
man
miss.
was all sides and
It's
still
just ridiculous.
missed in the 85th minute.
I just
Uh,
don't.
I, I'm hanging tough with Darwin. I just keep telling you know people that I know just hang tough with Darwin, but he's making it really hard for me to kind of continue to be in his corner, and really say he's going to be now he's going to get a lot of time because we've talked about Jota's problem with staying healthy, so he's going to play. But we got to figure out this offside thing. My God, figure it
It's
out, dude.
yeah. To your point, there must be something a little bit off with Nunes, right? I mean, I don't really know what it is, but there's just he kind of has a weird. I don't even know. It's just a bizarre guy, right? And I think that the fact that he is offsides more than anyone I've ever watched play the game is bizarre. And I know he's hungry to score goals, but it's almost like when he got onto the field, I hate to admit it, but I never really had hope for him to score. I mean, I say that because I want him to score, but when he gets someone for Jota, who Jota's a proven goal scorer, I'm like, well, there kind of goes, hopefully Gakpo can be an attacking threat. Hopefully Mo can be an attacking threat. I never once think when Darwin gets subbed on, yeah, he's going to score us a goal. And I hate to say that, but it's like he needs to prove us otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really cheering for this guy. For some reason, I like him. I like his energy. I like a lot of things about him, but he is making it really hard for me to sit there and go, yeah, no, guys, just wait. He's going to start scoring goals,
Right.
and then he doesn't.
Yep, exactly.
And so anyway, Gakpo is an interesting case for me. I thought Gakpo played pretty well when he came on, and
Agreed.
I just don't know how Gakpo fits in right now because Diaz is playing so well. I I think Gakpo's got a role to play, and I think he had a strong Euro. We talked about it, but in the 88th minute, he had just really good work rate for him in the 88th minute. I thought he played really well.
Yep.
Um, Finally see Endo in his first little bit of action. He came on for Gravenberch in the 91st minute. I think we need to say that, carrying a yellow from the when did he get his yellow? He got his yellow in the 37th minute to the 91st minute. I think Gravenberch did pretty well for himself.
Again, another good couple, another good game in the tank for him at this position. We'll see it again on Sunday. He'll be in the 11, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So the game ends and it's a 2-0 final. Um, by all rights, Nick, for me, um, I think the game, I think we could have easily have scored 4 or 5 goals against these guys. I don't know how I really don't know how we didn't, but,
Right.
but, but,
But
but I'll take,
the good factor is that this was a game where we kind of, I hate to compare ourselves to them, we kind of played the game like City plays, right? I mean, like we never really let Brentford have the opportunities that we let up a lot of last season. And anytime we had the ball, if we were clinical, we could have scored, right? Where Man City always looks like they can score. And I think that today Liverpool always look like they can score. Except last year it was Liverpool always looked like we can score, we don't score, and then we let up goals. You know what I mean? So there's a difference to it. And I think
Yeah.
today we got that second goal and we kept pressing for the third, fourth, but Brentford never really looked like they even had a chance for their first goal. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make comparisons here, but it's kind of like keeping a game 2-0 when it could have been 4-0. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you still get 3 points.
You get 3 points. You're coming out of this thing with 6 points in the first two games, and you had two clean sheets.
Yep,
Let's talk about that. I mean, two games where we had two clean sheets. So, that to me is defending in the right direction.
exactly.
And I don't really like to make comparisons either, but you know, I just was until that second goal in the 71st minute. I just kept, but ultimately, Nick, we kind of neutralized their. We said I don't even think he did much. I don't
Yeah,
even
their
remember
their
really
partnership
any.
of, like I said, the partnership, the duo that Brentford has with Wisa and Burmo was very much put to bed.
Absolutely. I mean, I was concerned about that Lisa guy before because I kind of read some things about him and I was a little concerned and you know, I was just for me, I was just kind of hoping that we would have put the game to bed a little earlier. And
Yep.
that's kind of what I'm talking about. And that's, if you're making the comparisons to Man City would have had a 3-0 lead at halftime.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I'm not. I hate to make the comparison because City is clinical, or sometimes I feel like we're not as clinical, but I mean it by the stats of Brentford never look like it's hard to tell, right? I mean, we'll see how the season progresses, but it's one of those cases where Liverpool was well and fully in control of the game, whereas last year it was 50-50. You know, what I mean, Liverpool
Well,
every time Liverpool lined
yeah.
up against a team last year, it was they're probably going to score. They might score. You know, who knows? This game today, I never felt like Brentford were going to score.
Right. Right. Agreed. I do see that. And the stats bear it out, Nick. I mean,
Yeah.
the final stats show us with a 62% possession, they had 38. Total shots, we had 19, they had 8. We had 8 on goal, they had 2. Allison only needed to make 2 saves. Their keeper made 6. We had 9 corners, they had 4. Here's something, Nick, that I thought was kind of awesome as well. Liverpool today completed 92% of their passes. It's the best passing accuracy for a Premier League game for them since 2003, 2004 season.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That's good to hear. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought that was actually just a kind of wild thing. And I'm going, you know, it's fun to look at these stats because it tells a lot of the tale of the game, I mean, you see it.
That's exactly.
So, who's your man of the match? I mean, we talked about
It's
half. Who's your man of?
yeah, fairly. To your point, it was your first half man of the match, but it's Ibrahim Kanate for me. Very much just has now solidified himself to start on Sunday at United. I think we can all agree. Which you know, the only good thing, the good thing about this, right, is that with Kanate coming back into his form, it means Kwanzaa's going to want to work twice as hard, right? So
Absolutely.
competition in the training ground is always healthy. So it's nothing but good for Liverpool. But he was colossal today. He was the Kanate that we haven't seen for quite a while, honestly. So I
Yes.
winning balls in the air, tackles,
Yes.
smart passes. Yeah, Kanate for me.
I'm going to go off and say I think it was Dominic Soboslai for me.
Yeah,
I think Sobo just had a game where he was involved. He was lively. Passes made a lot of sense. I think things went through him. He was controlling in the midfield. He was a force in the midfield. I liked everything he brought today. The obvious choice would have been Diaz, a goal and an assist, but for me it was Sobo.
yeah, I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're seeing now, Nick, is next Sunday we go to Old Trafford. We have a team in Man United who they just they know how to play us, even though you can't even really say that. Well, they had a bad start to their season and blah blah blah.
They know how to
You
play
know
us. You're right. At
they
Old
know
Trafford,
how to
especially.
play us, and I don't care if they have had no wins, if they played us, it would be just the dogfight that it always is. So there is, with 2 wins for us, I feel confident enough, but I'm not going to sit there and just start saying, "Hey, this is going to be a runaway. We're going to just blow them out of the water."
Yeah, first I hate to say first true test, but first true test for Slot, you would think,
It
right?
really is.
Ipswich and Brentford, obviously no ill will to them, but those were games where Liverpool was expected to win. The game next Sunday is a toss up because it's his first test going into Old Trafford against the arch rivals. So I'm excited but nervous, but I'm confident if we play it how we played today, and just maybe a little clinical in the final third, we should find some success.
You're 100% correct, Nick. I mean, it's our first time against one of the big clubs in the
Right.
Premier League. And so, that always adds a little bit of, clout to the game. And, Slot going into Old Trafford, that's got to, one of the stadiums in the world.
Yep. Yep.
You talk about stadiums that are iconic, and Old Trafford's right there. So Slot going into that kind of a situation, it is going to be a test. I think we are continue to be a work in progress. I like the progress that's being made, and I certainly see us kind of coming out there and being ready to play next week. I really think we're
Absolutely.
going to be ready to play.
Absolutely.
And anything else to add, Nick?
No, no. Good result, good 3 points, and up the Reds.
Absolutely. And as always here on Kopites Calling, you'll never walk alone.